Hey guys, this is Deepak. In this video, we are gonna understand the EBS volume or the elastic block store volume options, the volume options that are available for your RDS, your relational database, so that you can have a very good, you can get good performance from your RDS solution. So let's get started on that. So basically, you have three different options for memory. One is a magnetic hard disk based, the ones which you typically use in your IBM or your Lenovo laptops or your typical Windows laptop would be an SSD, your magnetic hard disk, or it can be an SSD drive, which is a high performance storage device. Which is amazingly great performance, great IO operations performance is available, and you have a provisioned SSD, which is even a higher performance over the SSD. To understand more about these hard disk EBS types, do check my video series under the compute section where I talk about the elastic block stores in detail. So do check that. And you have the different IO credit. So you have a concept of IO credit, like when your database is not getting used much, when you're not using your database much, you will get credits at those situations. So it's strange. You are getting credit, which is going to increase your bandwidth. With less credit, you get more bandwidth. What it means is, say that you're expecting your workload to be something like this. Okay, this is what you are expecting your workload over time. This is the workload. But if you get an actually workload is like this, you're not getting that much. But sometimes you get very high and sometimes low workload. If this is the way you are actually getting your workload, so what can you do is you can collect credits. So when your workload is less, you can collect these credits of IO performance, IO processors per second. You can collect it, and when your workload increases a lot, when it goes higher, at the time you can start using these credits into these situations. So these credits, these IO credits will help you to maximize your performance and even use the situations where the demand of your is if your database is less. So this is about this credit system in EBS, and it offers you like kind of it offers you uh, a credit of a starting credit of say 5.4 million IO credits, free credits of 5.4 million, which means if you have 3000 IOPS per second, if you have very high load, then you will be able to run for 30 minutes at very high load without any issues at 3000 IOPS. So that is so you can run at such high performance with the initial credit. And as and when you are not using your database much, you can keep collecting the credits also. So you can see that you have a base. If you have a 1 GB EPS volume, you get a base performance of 100, and for storage of 100 you get a base performance of 300, and as your storage size increases, your base performance for IOPS also it keeps on increasing for your GB. So that's a linear relationship between the storage size and this IOPS that you get. So if you use when you have this much of your storage size 1 GB, then for that you will get a max burst of for 3000 IOPS second. So you can get up to a burst of this much when you're using your credits. Your base is gonna be this, but you can get higher IO ops when you are using the burst credit. And how much second does it take, how much time does it take to fill your credit balance? So if you have 54,000 seconds, if your demand is less, then you can fill up your IO credit to use the burst. So you can see higher performance will need lesser amount of downtime or lesser amount of time when the data hard disk is not used so much to get that much amount of credit. So let us look at some other concepts, some other stuff. Like you have use what is the purpose, typical use of using the provision storage. Provision storage you will typically use typically when you are using when you go for online transaction processing systems. In those cases you can go for the provision storage, like your sales counter, or you can stuff that you need very high performance, like your some websites that create very high performance for read operations like a stock ticker or some stuff like that, and you can go for provision IO. It is recommended, it is generally recommended to use provision IO with multi-region deployment. Maybe like for you can use the provision IO where you have multi-regions for ensuring you have higher redundancy or robustness in your architecture. You can create a replica for that for getting better read performance, and you could typically combine the provisioned and general purpose SSD for reducing your controlling your cost also. And magnetic storage is something which doesn't allow you to auto scale. So you have to remember, if you use magnetic storage, you cannot auto scale easily. All right, so about that. Can monitor, you have AWS RDS has offered you a lot of amazing features to monitor. You want to continuously monitor your performance as well. So you can monitor the IO operations per second, how much is happening, how much is the latency, what is the latency, like it depends when the request was triggered and when the output was passed back in milliseconds. So you can capture the latency part. Throughput is number of bytes transferred per second from your hard disk into the compute in your CPU. So how much speed the data got transferred, that is a throughput between your CPU and a hard disk. And Q is like how much throttling is happening, how much input requests are in queue which are not getting processed. So this queue is another critical concept to understand in database. So you have all these wonderful ways through which you can monitor your RDS. So think about it. You can use them in your solutions. So thank you again for watching. I'm gonna come back with other videos on AWS soon. So see you later. Bye.